Hello, my love, and welcome back to another episode of the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. Happy Wednesday. I hope that your Wednesday is off to the most fantastic start. I am so incredibly excited to share today's episode with you, where we are bringing back a client conversation on the Join Jessica series here on the podcast. The conversation that I'm having today is with the beautiful Emily Geris. If you are privileged enough to be close in my world where you know Emily, even just a little bit of how well I know Emily, you know that her heart and her soul are just so pure and so beautiful. She is one of the kindest, most loving people I have ever met in my whole entire life. And I'm very, very, very excited to share this conversation with you. Emily came into my world over 2 years ago, and we began working together so that she could improve her relationship with food. She started inside of Food Won't Fix the Problem and then moved on to my MBS course. She took the Mind, Body, and Spirit Transformation course many times when I offered the year-long membership for that. And then she started her own coaching business alongside me inside of the Spark Mastermind, which is now known as the Total Package in my world. The way that she has transformed as a human is just so beautiful. Her confidence just radiates through her, her intelligence, her emotional ability to express the way that she is feeling, her ability to reframe. We actually coined her inside of the mastermind, the reframe queen. She is so good at just shifting her perspective to seeing things differently. And I know that is in large part because of the work that we did together. So I know that you are going to absolutely adore this conversation with Emily. I am going to share a little bit more about her before we jump into the conversation. But first, I want to talk about the ways that you can work with me if you are desiring to inside of 2023. I have so many thoughts and feelings around coaching and mentorship. I've shared a lot that my relationship with my coach has come to an end for now as I move on to this 8-month course that I am working in alongside 2 brand new mentors, which makes me so very excited. As I got started inside of HPS this past week, and I'll be sharing more about this on Friday's episode, I sat in a room full of 70 plus people, many of which are smarter than me, further along than me, more educated than me, better speakers than me, making more money than me, more successful than me. The list can go on and on and on. And I feel so passionately about coaching and the opportunity to put yourself in rooms where you're not the smartest person, and where you have the ability to learn from people who know how to lead you down a path to achieving what it is that you want. And I have so many feelings around your worthiness and how you deserve to be supported. Morning messages around that coming. But I just really want to encourage you this year, whether it's me or another coach or mentor that you really admire, desire to emulate the behaviors and the lifestyle that they have created for themselves. And when I say lifestyle, I'm not talking about the cars they drive or the house they have or the purses or the shoes. I'm talking about the way that they show up for themselves in their lives. If they're being a person that you desire to emulate and want to be more like, please do yourself a favor and get as close to that person as you possibly can. You might be in a position right now where you can't financially make it work. Join all of their free things. Have conversations with them about ways that you could potentially make mentorship work. Stop talking yourself out of the opportunity to be supported. I'm guilty of nearly doing that myself, and I'll share that with you on an upcoming episode. But we deserve to be supported in our work towards achieving what it is that we want in our lives. I deserve it. You deserve it. And there are people out there, I know this because I am one of them, who want to share all of the knowledge, all of the expertise, everything that they know about creating massive success and changing their lives and building businesses and whatever it is that you want to achieve. There are people out there who want to teach you how to do it. Will you be willing to allow yourself to ask for help? It's one of the scariest things to do, to open up vulnerably and say, I need help. I would like help. I deserve to be helped. And there's a level of accountability that creates, right? I believe that the most successful people are people who have some type of skin in the game. They're making some kind of investment in themselves, even if that's not a financial investment. If you're completely unable, they're investing their time, their energy, and their resources into achieving what it is that they want. Put put some skin in the game this year, okay? Do yourself a favor and reach out to the coach who you want to work with so badly, the coach that you just admire and wish that you could create the success that they have created. I can promise you, he or she will want to help lead you down a path of creating that for yourself, okay? So let's talk quickly about the ways that you can work with me if you are so desiring to. First up, we have 2022 Recapped. This is a 5-day live course where I'm going to be dissecting my entire year of 2022. I was working on the outline today. And when I say there are just going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of lessons for every single thing that I have gone through that I'm sharing inside of this masterclass, there are a minimum of 2 lessons, and I'm taking you through month by month by month, like 4 to 5 things each month that I did, that I tried, that worked, that didn't work, that I succeeded in, that I failed in, that stretched me, that shrunk me, that allowed me to feel excited about the future, that made me feel like everything was burning to the ground. I am sharing the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between with you inside of 2022 Recapped. And we're not just talking about the things that I did. I promise you that I am dissecting this in a way where there's going to be incredible value for you. If you are a woman who wants to know what it takes, who you need to be massively successful in your life, this is going to be a mindset pep talk like you have never received in your life. We're going to be talking about everything from communication, boundaries, emotional intelligence, burnout. We're going to be talking about business. We're going to be talking about health and fitness. I'm even going to be talking a little bit about my personal life and my marriage and things that I went through this year, forgiveness, healing, like literally everything that you can imagine that you experience as a human being, whether you have a business or not. This is going to be incredibly, incredibly beneficial for you. This is really for the woman who knows she just wants to be there. If you're a woman who loves to learn from me, I know that there's no actionable, this is what you're going to be able to do after you leave this. That's not the type of event this is. This is the type of event of you want to be a part of next level conversations. You want to see the behind the scenes of what it looks like to navigate success and really be a woman who can pull herself up from disappointments and failures, who can have hard conversations around self-awareness and self-sabotage, who can continue going when it literally feels like everything is crumbling right before you. That's what I experienced in my life and in my business this past year in 2022. And I continued to time after time pick myself up, and I kept going. And I can tell you that in just the first 7 days, it's January 7th when I'm recording this, January has paid off for me in a way where I just feel like the universe is telling me, thank you for proving yourself and continuing to push forward even when things felt so hard. There were so many times last year where I wanted to quit on literally everything that I was doing. And I'm just so proud of myself that I kept going. And inside of 2022 Recapped, I'm going to share with you everything that I can about how you too can become a woman who, no matter what's going on, will stay so fucking committed to what she wants in her life that she's going to keep going despite all of it. And I'm so excited. We are beginning on January 18th. There are 4 trainings, live trainings recorded with lifetime access, plus a Q&A that is going to be happening on Monday, the 23rd. So we have trainings the 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and then our Q&A is going to be on Monday, the 23rd. In follow-up to that, if that kind of environment speaks to you, where you're really wanting to have these kinds of next level conversations, the ones that aren't necessarily going to teach you how to by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step do certain things, but the conversations that will expand you, that will ignite you, that will activate you in a way that you are craving to be activated so that you can go after the more and the bigness that you are craving in 2023, the JJXO Unfiltered Radio would be another place where you should absolutely 10 out of 10 join me. This is going to be behind the scenes look again of what it takes to be a woman who creates massive success in her life. This will include a Voxer broadcast chat where once a week I will be coming in and sharing things that I am navigating, going through, learning in my life, and how I am going through those things, growing through those things, and the valuable lessons and takeaways for you. So this is like a behind the scenes documentary style of what's going on in my life. And I can promise you that these next 8 months are going to stretch me and expand me in ways that I've never been stretched or expanded before. I'm going to learn more about myself over the next 8 months than I probably have in the last 8 years of my life. This is a really good time to be in my world because the more I grow, the more I am pushed, the more I am challenged, the more I am learning to be a better coach and mentor for you. So JJXO Unfiltered Radio is going to open at the end of January, and you will receive once a week Pep Talks, where I'm going to take you through what I am learning in my life, what I am going through, and how that can translate into lessons and value for you. And then there is a once a month Q&A where you will have an opportunity to leave your questions on a feed, and I will give you the coaching and support and answers to your questions that you are looking for. This is a 3-month commitment for the woman who really wants to know, what does growth actually look like behind the scenes while it's happening? Because these next 3 months are going to be so expansive for me. And again, like I said, the more expansive things are for me, the more I'm going to be able to be an expander for the clients who I have in my world. The links for both the 2022 Recapped and JJXO Unfiltered Radio are inside of the show notes of this episode. Next up, we had already talked about the retreat a little bit last week where I shared all of the details. We're going to be together in Fort Lauderdale, Florida from October 20th through October 23rd, a long girls weekend. Inside of the episode today where I chat with Emily, we talk a lot about the sisterhood healing that happened at that retreat for her. And I believe she is planning on being at the retreat in 2023 as well, which makes me so very excited. Spots are already filling. Spots are limited. This is an all-inclusive opportunity where once you arrive in Florida, I'm going to take care of you and spoil you from the moment you arrive until the moment you depart. I will be staying with you at the Airbnb. This isn't you come and stay there and I pop up when I want to. I'm going to be there with you the entire time. And I also made the decision this week that the first audience to hear the keynote that I craft inside of Heroic Public Speaking will be the women at the 3rd annual JJXO retreat. What a beautiful fucking opportunity and what a full circle moment this is going to be. It's going to be so fucking good. If you want to be with me in person and other women who will just light your heart and soul on fire and make you feel loved like you have never felt loved before, this would be a place for you to come to. I'm really excited to do this bigger and better than ever. We're going to stay in a beautiful villa with a pool and a hot tub and good food and lots of laughs and so many hugs and lots of coaching and just so much incredible sisterhood bonding, which if you've never been to an in-person event like this, you have no idea what you are missing out on. There are 2 more things that I want to talk about on this episode. The total package, which inside of, again, today's episode, you will hear Emily and I talk about the Spark Mastermind. That is now the total package. That is my high-level mastermind for the coach or aspiring coach who desires to build a multiple six-figure coaching business. So this is high-level mentorship with me inside of Voxer and weekly Zoom calls, alongside of 60+ trainings and workbooks that are going to help teach you all of the things that you need to know about building a coaching business. So this is for the woman who is not yet making 6 figures and really wants to learn all of the foundational things that are required in terms of strategy, niche, ideal client, content, offers, selling, launching, scaling, emotional intelligence, leadership, embodiment, boundaries, all of the really important things for you to know, as well as the personalized coaching, which means I will be there to support you in the blocks that come up as you're taking steps towards creating the success that you want in your coaching business. If that speaks to you, please send me a DM and we can have a conversation around that. And the final thing that I want to share with you on today's Join Jessica episode is MBS. MBS is making a one-time appearance inside of 2023, and I am very excited for this. It is going to be a 6-week mastermind experience for the woman who wants to completely transform mind, body, and spirit. The focus of the MBS experience is binge and emotional eating. So if you're a woman who has struggled with her relationship with food, you know me, I hope by now, you know what I have been through in terms of my relationship with food, my weight loss, my binge eating, my emotional eating, my all or nothing thinking, yo-yo dieting, starting and stopping. You know my story, I hope by now. If you don't, I recommend going back and listening to episodes 1 through 3. I think those are really foundational episodes on the Queen of Pep Talks podcast where I talk about my story and what really led me to the point where I was sharing on a platform like this and overcoming binge eating, emotional eating, and losing 100 pounds twice. MBS is for the woman who really wants to overcome those kinds of behaviors. So if you're really looking to improve the relationship that you have with yourself, your body, and food, this would be the experience for you to join in 2023. I do not do as much food and body image coaching now, probably like once a quarter. I'm doing something related to food and body image, but we're doing a lot of mindset, still a lot of business, because I've allowed myself to be something I'll be talking about in 2022 Recapped. I have allowed myself to be all of who I am, and I do not crave to, and I will not put myself in a box of believing I need to choose one thing in order to be successful. This is something I talk a lot more about inside of the total package. As you're starting a coaching business, how do you navigate being a person who is multi-passionate like I am, or who has created a lot of success in a lot of different areas of your life? So if you're a woman who's looking to improve the relationship that you have with food, you really want to overcome binge eating, you want to overcome emotional eating, you want to learn to stop yo-yo dieting. I know that this is a time of year where a lot of people are really focused on being on a diet, which is why we're not doing MBS right now. I want to let you be on the diet that you're choosing to be on and allow you to see another diet is not going to change the relationship that you have with food. Allow me to help you actually dig deep and change the relationship that you have with food so that you can not only lose weight, but you can also maintain a healthy lifestyle that allows you to feel really good. The emotional part of binge and emotional eating is exhausting, and I want to help you get off of that emotional roller coaster and allow the relationship that you have with food to be literally just that, a relationship that you have with food where it's not this big thing that feels like it's consuming your entire life. 6 weeks, we are going to be starting towards the end of Q1 this year. I'm thinking end of March. Send me a message if this speaks to you and we can talk about this opportunity. It includes a lot of personalized coaching, Voxer support, weekly Zoom calls with the other women. The sisterhood inside of MBS is so incredibly powerful. The sisterhood in every space I create is so very powerful. I know that because of the communities that I build and the feedback that I get from my clients, which let's move into the episode with Emily, where you can just hear what it's like to be in my world. If what my clients share with you on these Wednesday episodes resonates, again, just a gentle little loving nudge, take a step closer into my world. Being here on the podcast is fun. Being closer in my world will literally blow shit up for you in the best way possible. Okay. So let's get into the conversation with Emily. I'm going to recommend that you connect with her on Instagram and on her podcast. We will put links to both of those in the show notes of this episode. She is at Abundance Emily on Instagram and her podcast is Abundantly You. We will put again links to both of those in the show notes of this episode. I'm going to ask again, if you have not already, please leave a rating and review on the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. You know how much it means to me. I love you so much. Enjoy this conversation, and I will talk to you on the next episode of the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. I am so excited to have today's guest on the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. I am here with just the beautiful, shining ray of sunshine, Emily Geris. Hi, Emily. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hi, Jessica. Thank you so much for having me. Truly, it's such an honor. I've loved this podcast for a long time. So to be a guest on it today just feels so surreal and so amazing.
I know, it's so exciting. I've been looking forward to our conversation since we talked about you coming on. You are such a special person to me. You're one of those people, and I know I've told you this before, but for my audience, Emily is the type of person that when she speaks, you just want to listen because there's so much intelligence and kindness and compassion in literally everything that you say. And I just think you're such a beautiful human, and I'm so excited to share you with my audience.
Thank you so much. Can already feel the tears. It's going to be such a good conversation.
I know. Where are the tissues? So why don't you share with my audience a little bit about who you are and what you do? And if you want to share what your experience was like finding me and coming into my world, if you can remember back that far, that would be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an abundance and wealth embodiment coach. I have had my coaching business for about 2 years, and it really was all inspired by starting to work with you, Jessica. Before we started working together, I didn't have, I think probably not a lot of people, in fact, no one that I know, when you're a kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a mindset coach. I had no idea what that even meant. Before we started working together, even in college, when I thought of life coaches, I thought of Tony Robbins, typically men, honestly, who were on big stages, who were talking to a big audience about, I saw it as just motivational speakers. And so it's been really interesting, and I'm excited to share more about kind of the windy path that I took to becoming a coach. I help women and people in my community really with creating an abundance mindset for themselves. So it's really kind of a broad umbrella, and I love how broad it is. So I help my clients with their relationship with food and their bodies. Maybe they want to start an intuitive eating practice or lose weight in a way that feels really good to them. I help my clients with their money mindset and having abundance around money, their relationship to it, and creating more money if that's a desire of theirs. I help my clients with just even uncovering, what are your desires? What do you really want? And making sure you want it for yourself and not for the other people in your life. And then just relationships of all kinds, like having an abundant relationship to yourself, and also whether that's with dating or a partner or your friends and your family. So it's really like just an abundance in all areas where you want to be abundant in your life.
I love that so much. I remember one of our conversations, I can't remember where we had it. I think it may have been in MBS, when you started putting together like the connection between your relationship with food and your relationship with money, and how you were realizing some of the all or nothing thinking sometimes that you had around your relationship with food and how that could connect with your relationship with money. Do you remember when you had that realization? And we talked a lot about that because it was something that I also experienced, where I had all or nothing thinking, and I didn't realize how many areas of my life that way of thinking was holding me back in, around my relationship with food, around my relationship with money, around my consistency in the way that I showed up for myself. What was that experience like for you in realizing that? Because one of the things that we talked about in MBS is like, there is an abundance of food and there is no rush to like hurry up and finish it. It helps you connect with being more intuitive and slowing down and knowing no one is coming to steal the food from you. There's always more for later. And you really started to connect the dots and how that way of thinking held you back in so many areas of your life. Can you talk about what that realization was like for you, and realizing how one way of thinking can connect to so many different areas of your life?
Yeah, I remember that so vividly because it was so powerful. And it's funny because I feel like once you helped me make that connection, that's when I was like, this is what I want to help other people with. And that's when that drive to really like get serious about creating a business of my own where I get to coach people around that. That's when that was really born, which is absolutely amazing. For so much of my life, I felt like I can't do what I really want to do until I get to a place where I'm living in a body that I feel like the size of it is perfect. Like I need to get to my goal weight, whatever that is. And then I can like get the dream job. And then I can like get the dream relationship. Then I can be rich. Like, then I can really explore like being a writer, right? Like I felt like my body is what I felt held me back from everything that I wanted to create in my life. And so when I realized inside of MBS and in our work together, like, one, that doesn't have to be true, but two, like if I really focus on healing my relationship with food and my body, that now has put me like such a leg up for all of these other areas in my life that I want to give some attention to, like my relationship with money, which was another big one. It's like, oh, I don't have to start from square one with money. I can take all these things that I learned with creating like a joyful movement practice and intuitive eating and making peace with my body and losing weight in a sustainable, pleasurable way. Like so many of these things relate to money. So it was like a whole new world opened up, and I just felt like anything was possible. It's like, this isn't going to be as hard as I thought it was going to be. This isn't going to be like a terrible, daunting process where I'm going to hate every day of my life until I get quote unquote there. You know, like that sort of destination addiction that I felt like I had before we started working together. It was like I was set free.
Yeah, I love that so much. One of my favorite things about the MBS course is the women who come in. Obviously, when you started that course, there was a clear intention around improving your relationship with food and, you know, improving the relationship that you had with your body. But what I think women don't realize is once you start to work on the way that you think in one area of your life, it really does trickle into every other thing that you do in your life. And I've shared so many times that I believe one of the reasons I have been so successful in my business is because of how much I worked on my mindset around my relationship with food and my body. Because once you are able to control the way that you think and show up differently in the way that you're thinking and how that encourages your actions, you're able to take those things and put them in different areas of your life. And you can translate it to money and business and relationships and literally everything that you do. And I just think it's so incredible that you made those connections and then fell into like, oh, this is what I know I want to help other people with, because it was so clear for you that this was something that held you back for so long in your life. I just think it's so beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It truly was magical. And it was so fun for me as well to see. I mean, I saw you as proof of so much of what's possible for me as well. But it was really fun because I came into your world when you were just starting to share business coaching. Like, and it's interesting because I was first drawn to you. I started following you because of your weight loss journey, because that's, again, online business and coaching was not even on my radar. But at that time, like I was looking for weight loss inspiration, honestly. And I was following you for that. And so what first really drew me to you was like, wow, Jessica is having success with like consistently showing up for herself and losing weight. I want that. And then when you started talking about business and like how so much of what you were sharing, it's like, here's what I learned from healing my relationship with food, and I'm applying it to my business, like the all or nothing thinking, the destination addiction, the external validation being like the only thing that makes us feel good. I was like, whoa, this is incredible. And it's like, that's available to all of us. Like I get to then apply that to my relationship with money, to my interpersonal relationships. Like, I mean, there's so many golden nuggets I can think of our time working together, but that is by far one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. It's life-changing when you really work on your mind and the way that you think. And unfortunately, I think it's something that so many people are just overlooking because they want the steps and the how to do things and how to get places. But a big piece of it really is the way that you think. Would you share, because our journeys are quite similar in both having lost 100 pounds and then put a large majority, if not all of that weight back on. Can you talk about what really, obviously you had been watching me and you were inspired by my weight loss. What was it that really made you decide that you wanted to commit to working with me inside of the MBS course? I think that's the first thing. Maybe you did Food Won't Fix the Problem first, but initially you came into my world around relationship with food, and then it translated, we transitioned over into business coaching with you. But can you talk about what really pushed you into deciding that you wanted to hire me as a coach to help you with your relationship with food? What were you feeling at that point in your life?
Yeah, I felt like no one really understood what I was going through, like what it was like to eat when you're not hungry, to like consciously decide I'm going to overeat or I'm going to binge, even though I don't want to. Like, you know, the bigger part of my brain was like, you're not going to feel good after this, Emily, but just feeling like drawn to that. I felt a lot of shame around it. I think like most of the women that you work with and that I work with now too, there's that level of shame. And like, I don't want anyone to know what my relationship with food is really like, you know? So when you would share in your content, like, I understand you, I get you because I am you. Like I was you, like hiding wrappers, like food wrappers in the trash. Like, I'm like, yep. Been there, done that, ate in my car, threw it away at a gas station, and then came home and pretended like nothing happened. I was like, no one has ever like spoken to me in that way before. I've never encountered anyone in my real life or online that speaks in this way. And I felt so seen. And so because of that, I was like, I'm going to be so safe working with Jessica. And I was like a moth to a flame. I was like, I want to know more, because if this is what she's sharing in her free content online, like what must this course be like?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you share a little bit about what it was like for you going through MBS? And I know you were in the year-long membership, so you took that course many, many times, but can you talk a little bit, one of the words that you said that I know is very important to me and something that we talked about a lot, especially in the mastermind and at the retreat that we had, was this feeling of safety. Can you talk more about what your experience was like inside of MBS and what it felt like to not just be there with me as a woman who understands and has overcome a lot of the things that you were going through, but also to be surrounded by women who totally understood who you were, what you were feeling, and what you were going through. What was that like for you?
Yeah. I mean, that was like a dream come true. And it was such a like key, I feel like, of that program. Cause when I think about like, I mean, like if I could have hired you one-on-one to just do like relationship with food and body coaching, but it would not have had, like, it would have been missing that sisterhood element, which I feel like, especially at that time in my life, I had a lot of sisterhood wounds.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for those of us that are like in this space, it's like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about, sisterhood wounds. But for anyone that's like, huh? Like, what do you mean? That feeling of like being around, especially other women, and feeling judged, like comparing yourself, like feeling like you're not really safe to open up with what it is you're going through, like you're going to be judged,
Everything is a competition. Like we don't want to open. And I remember, and I'm sure Sarah won't mind me sharing this, but this was something that came up a lot for her, and feeling like she always wanted to be the best or the smartest in the room, and the competition. And it's not even a conscious thing. We don't step into the room and think like, oh, I'm in competition with these other women. It's just something that's subconscious for us. And we feel like, I don't want to open up vulnerably because I don't want to be seen as weak, or I don't want to be judged for what I'm going through. And I don't want people to make fun of me or laugh at me, especially if we have wounds from childhood where we were teased by girls or boys in school. So I think that that's really, for me, when I think about sisterhood wounds, and I've had plenty of them myself, it's like the constant competition and feeling like you can't be authentic to who you are because it's not safe to be seen by those people.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I can't be my true self. Like I kind of have a persona, right? Where it's like, I'm not going to be all of myself because that feels really scary. Someone may judge me, or may think I'm going back to like high school times now, but I'm uncool, right? Or like what I do is not, it's not popular, or things like that. So that was such a safe space of like the women that you called in to that program. And over probably like the 6 rounds that I did with you, like the groups were always so like full of such beautiful people who were really committed to their own growth, which that was amazing to be around too. Like put yourself in a place where people are working towards the same thing that, that you want, but also they were just so caring. They had such big hearts, and it was like the more we opened up, like the safer it got. And I feel like then the more, like the deeper and more vulnerable we got from week to week to week, until pretty soon it was just like, wow, there's nothing like this group that I've ever experienced in the online world or the real world.
Yeah, one of the things I'm most proud of is the communities that I build with the women who come in. So what would you say your biggest takeaway from the MBS course was? Like, what do you feel like you got, if there was one thing that you took away that was like the most important to you in transforming the way that you think now in your life in terms of your relationship with your body and your relationship with food, what would that be?
I feel like it really was like balance is the word that comes to mind. But I knew I had all or nothing thinking around food and exercise, but I did not realize how intense it was until I went through the MBS program. Truly, there were just things that they might seem very simple, but to me were very, very profound. So I remember like making myself lunch one day, and I had a salad, and then I had some like leftover, like takeout appetizer type of food, like finger food, if you will. Right. So in my mind, pre-MBS, the salad is good, and like fried appetizers are bad. So the fact that I was like, I want some of these leftovers because they're going to taste really good, and I'm going to make a salad because I want to nourish my body with some nutrient dense foods. Before, I would have felt like, well, that's just canceling it out. I have a good food and a bad food, and so they cancel each other out. So let me not do that. Let me either just have the salad and be very restrictive, or let me like binge on fried food for lunch. And so seeing how I could have both, it's like that actually feels good. Like it was really just about like, how do I relate to food in a way that feels good for me? Not how this diet says I should be, not how, my emotions are telling me to eat, but like what would feel good for my body. Like that was a revolutionary thing for me.
Yeah. And it's so fascinating to me how we live so many years of our lives never taking into consideration, what do I really want and what's going to make me feel really good? And I think that's one of the core like principles that I want women to take from the MBS course is if you can just tune in to what makes you feel best, most of the time you will make decisions that are really in alignment with getting the result that you want. But we're so used to following the rule book, right, of somebody else telling us what we're supposed to do or what we're not supposed to do, that we've completely lost the intuitive touch within ourselves and the trust within ourselves. Because every time that we go off a diet, we have evidence that we can't be trusted with food because we emotionally eat, we overeat, we binge eat. So there's no trust there. And that, I think, is such a huge part of MBS, is helping you rebuild the trust within yourself. And how far does that go? Like, not just in your relationship with food, but how does trusting yourself change your life outside of your relationship with food?
Exactly. I mean, like, because I've always felt that I was a very intuitive person, but I never really thought of it that way with food. So, like, exactly like you're saying, when I could build up that intuition and trust with myself, then it's like, yes, around food. And then that bled into like how I see and feel in my body, how I exercise, doing things in my 9-to-5 job, in my coaching business. Like, it truly spills in such a beautiful way into every area of your life. Because who doesn't want to feel like more intuition and more trust within themselves?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
That's what we're at.
100%. We want to feel, we look, and I think this is a big piece for women, and I'm sure you've dealt with this with some of your clients, is we want to feel loved in our lives, and we want to feel safe in the relationships that we have, and we want to feel respected and honored and nurtured, but we're always constantly looking for those things from other people. And we never pause for a second and say, well, how can I give that to myself? And when you're able to start giving those things to yourself, you can seek external validation far less. You can feel so much better in your life because you're the person who is giving you what you've been wanting and craving for so long.
Exactly. Yeah. And you don't have to wait, because I felt this way. And I know a lot of women feel this way. Like, well, once I'm in the relationship, like, the man will give that to me, right? Or the money will give that to me, or the career, or the house, or the body. And it's like, we're always waiting. But it's like all those days and weeks and months and years that we're waiting, like, that's also part of our life. And if we're miserable, like, that means we're miserable in our lives. So it's like I reached a point where I was like, I don't want to be miserable in my life anymore. Like, I get to have those things. I get to want those things. But like, what if I could start calling in the things that I want to feel, that I think those external things are going to give me? What if I can call them in now? And just like you're saying, I can give that to myself in so many beautiful ways.
Absolutely. What role do you think, I'd love to transition to talking about your business a little bit. So you went through the MBS course with me, I think only once before I started business coaching, and I did the No Secrets Q&A, which you joined, and then you joined the foundation program, and then you joined the mastermind, which you were in with me for quite some time. And then we did the in-person retreat. I'd love to touch on all of those things, but I know that there are a lot of women in my audience right now who know that they're made for more, and they feel they're inspired by me and what I've built in my coaching business. And they're thinking to themselves, like, I would love to do that too, but I'm not quite there yet. Like, they think that there needs to be another level of qualification or of expertise or of healing or of growth for themselves before they're able to start sharing what they've been through to make an impact on the women who are maybe in their audience or the women that they're connected to. Did you feel any of that in the beginning of your business after you had started working on yourself a lot? You were healing, you were growing, making incredible progress, having these realizations of, I know I want to help people. Did you ever feel a lack of qualification and like, oh, well, maybe I need to be further along before I can start this journey in building my coaching business?
Yeah, I would say kind of yes and no. I do feel really proud that, and this, you helped me so much with this, but it was like, let me not try and run before I can walk. I had so many ideas and like things that I knew I wanted to do, even just sometimes inklings like in my business, like, oh, I would dream of doing X, Y, or Z. But it just started with me being like, I just really want to share authentically like what is on my mind and just like have some fun with my content. I feel like especially at the beginning, I had a lot of fun with creating content, and I was perfectly okay to be like, you and I talked a lot about, I remember you telling me once, you're like, Emily, I see you like just really building your personal brand. And like, there's no downside to that. Like, what a beautiful foundation to lay. And then whatever it is you decide you want to offer or do on top of that, you've got this personal brand. You have people who love your voice, who enjoy your sense of humor, who see you as someone they can trust, someone they see themselves in.
Mm-hmm.
So I really focused on like, let's build that foundation. Like, and the rest will come, and the inspired idea and action will come to me, but really focusing on like building that personal brand, which was a phrase that I wasn't really aware of until you shared that with me, but I'm like, that makes total sense. Like, who is Emily? You know, what does she feel? How could she help me? Just kind of wanting to create that content that would encourage people to come to my page. You know, I kind of want a dose of her voice. So let me go see what she's posted, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's it really is the foundation of all of our businesses. And I think a lot of people who want to start something new, they feel in anything, whether it's business or anything else, they feel like baby steps don't count as steps. Like, this level of effort isn't enough because I haven't created a masterclass or created a course in my first week in business, and I'm somehow now doing something wrong. Where it's like the step in building your personal brand. I did that for 7+ years before I ever offered anything in my business. I had no idea that I was building a personal brand. I was just showing up and creating content for people. But now in hindsight, it all makes sense why my business took off the way that it did, because I had so much trust from an audience of people who knew me, they trusted me, they liked what I shared, they felt connected to me. So when it was time to start putting offers out, it was like, oh yeah, I would do that with Jessica because I know her and I trust her. So
Exactly.
I always, and I know we talked about it, but I was always so happy to see the lack of urgency in the way that you approached building your business, because I think that you have always, and I know this because of the heart-centered type of human that you are, you care so much about people. And this business for you has always been, just like me, impact over everything. It's never been about making $1 million. It's been about who can I help and serve when I show up in the online space or in the containers that I'm working with clients, and how can I serve people? And when we have that intention first, it's so much easier to stay in it long-term and not feel the urgency and the rush to get to the next level of success.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because I feel like as I was growing in my business, the comparison kind of creeped in more in the middle chunk. I feel like I was in the mastermind a little bit, you know, it was a few months, maybe the second round or so. And, you know, there were times where I would compare myself to the other women inside, which is it's natural. And one of the beautiful things about being in a group space like that is you can examine those triggers or those ways that other people are activating you. And I compared myself to you and your business a lot. Like, there were times where I definitely put you on a pedestal. And just like realizing, okay, what's the difference between like having love and admiration for someone, which I absolutely do for you, obviously, and putting you on a pedestal in a way that's like not fair to you or to myself. Like, you're not perfect. Your business isn't perfect. Like, you're definitely steps ahead of me and you inspire me in so many different ways. But when I could like take you off of that pedestal and see that, you know, I'm not less than or worse because you happen to be steps ahead of me, like getting to reframe it, like you're proof of what's possible. And that's where I can go if I desire to, if I, you know, keep taking one step at a time.
Yeah. And I think for me, at least, because I have felt very similar with my coach, Stephanie, the closer I am to her, the easier it is to take her off that pedestal, because the more I see about the things that she actually goes through in her business. Did you feel the same to be true the longer we were, and even meeting in person multiple times, the more you got to see like the real human in me and not just what Instagram sees? Was it easier the closer you got to me to take me off that pedestal and realize like, wow, Jessica goes through really hard shit too. Like, it's not perfect for her. She doesn't have it all figured out. Do you feel like being in a space like a mastermind, it makes that relationship with your coach deeper to the point that you can see them as more human?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I think that's really when my eyes were opened as to at any level and every level, there's going to be challenges. Like I had this assumption that, you know, you were at this certain level, whether it's, you know, with business or with your relationship with food and your body, like where I don't know why we think this as humans, but it's like, oh, she or he or they is where I want to be. So they must never worry about these things anymore. They must not struggle anymore. But it's like, you are a growth oriented person. So you still are pushing up against your growth edges like every day. And that still feels scary and uncomfortable and vulnerable just because you're, let's say, 10 steps ahead of me. Like, I'm on my own growth edge and it feels a very similar way. So I loved having, being in the mastermind with you leading that, because you were able to share with us like, hey guys, this is what's going on. Like in this launch, or I'm disappointed with, how this went, or I'm kind of self-sabotaging here. And like, here's what I'm learning about it. And here's what I can pass on to you. And so I think that just helps normalize that no matter what level of business we get to, there's still going to be shit to deal with. And there's still going to be those growth edges that feel scary.
Absolutely. None of us are perfect and none of us have it all figured out. And when you are a growth oriented person who is always pushing for the next level of success or achieving something new, you're constantly meeting new parts of yourself that you've never explored before. And that's hard and it's scary and it feels uncomfortable for every single one of us. So I hate the assumption that just because people are more successful or further ahead, it just means that everything is easy for them, when in the reality, it's not true, because they're still pushing themselves to what's coming next for them, which it feels uncomfortable for all of us.
Right? Because if it's new, it's new. Like whether it's at level 1 or level 100, it's like, those feelings of newness, they'll always be with us.
Yeah,
so
absolutely. I would love to talk for just a minute or two about the mastermind retreat that we had in Arizona. This isn't something that I think I've specifically talked to any of my mastermind clients with about on the podcast, but I'm doing a big retreat in 2023. And I would love if you would share not just what your experience was like. I know because you shared with me how incredible that experience was for you, but in addition to what the experience was like for you, I would also like to hear you speak about, for my audience, the feelings that you had preparing to come to the retreat, because there was a lot of stuff that was coming up, right? And putting yourself in a room, traveling across the country, spending 4 days in a house with people that you had never met before, especially as a woman, like almost everyone there who has had body insecurities at some point in time were on actively trying to change their bodies or improve their bodies in some capacity. Can you talk about what it felt like for you to say yes to that opportunity, to put yourself in that space? And then if you would share a little bit about what that in-person experience with me was like.
Yeah, absolutely. So the retreat was definitely like such a standout memory for me. And I love traveling. I know there are some people that like travel gives them anxiety or, but I love travel. I love planning for it. I love buying new outfits. I love packing. Like the whole experience of it is I just love it. And so I was so excited not only to like get to go on a trip to somewhere warm in November, because we definitely have cold winter where I live. So, but just to be able to meet like all of you in person. We'd been together in the mastermind for, I think, a year.
Yeah, over a year. Yeah.
So many butterflies. Like that's what I remember feeling. Like I was so excited. But when I would like close my eyes and visualize like, okay, I'm going to see so-and-so in the airport. And then we're going to go to the house and then we're going to see everybody. And like actually thinking that was going to be real, like it made me so excited, but also so nervous. And I think that it opened up an opportunity for me to revisit, like probably a lot of women who've struggled with their relationship with their body. When you have a trip or a vacation coming up, all of those feelings of like, I need to lose weight fast. I need to like go on a crash diet. I'm going to be wearing a swimsuit. Like I'm not comfortable with how my body looks and feels. Like I don't want this to ruin the vacation. Cause like I've been there before where I felt so uncomfortable traveling somewhere, especially somewhere warm, because it's like, okay, I feel hot and sweaty and I feel out of shape and just like all of those icky feelings. And then you start judging yourself. And I did have some feelings around like, oh, I kind of want to lose a little bit of weight like before this trip. I was continuing to do that through intuitive eating, but I kind of felt like I need to speed up the process because I'm going to be seeing all these incredible people and we're going to be by the pool. And it was really interesting to just kind of lovingly acknowledge, okay, that makes sense that would be coming up for me. And I get to do this differently this time. I don't have to do this the way I've always done it. And I remember one day going into our Voxer chat for the mastermind. And I think I was like, okay, I'm committed to not having any expectations about changing my body before the retreat. And I think at least 2 other women came in and were like, thank fucking God you said something, because I was thinking the exact same thing. Like I was struggling with that too, or I've gained a little weight and I was worried you guys were going to think, oh, she looks so different than what she does on Zoom, because it's like we would just see each other like shoulders up on Zoom every week on the calls. And so then that opened up such a beautiful conversation. Like, well, I'm kind of nervous for you to like, I don't know, see me in my pajamas or like be in a swimsuit around you guys or whatever it was. And of course, everyone was so supportive. And then it just started to like, once you are able to speak it kind of, the fear loses its power. But that was just interesting that came up. It was kind of like an old vacation trigger almost that I was able to work through in a much more graceful way.
I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of a mastermind, though, is the opportunity to bring things to the surface that you are feeling and experiencing. And immediately, this actually just happened for me last night. I went into the mastermind that I'm in and I brought something up, and immediately 3 other people were like, oh my gosh, I've been feeling the same thing. Thank you so much for bringing this conversation here. And it's like, you immediately just feel understood and supported in what you're experiencing and going through.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I'm not alone. Like, it's just another, there's countless examples of like, you feel like you're alone and you're really not.
Yeah.
And so it's just really beautiful when that happens.
It's the best feeling. Can you talk about what the mastermind retreat was like for you, what that experience was like in connecting with women some of whom you had known for quite some time, some that you had never even met or really spoken to before? Can you talk about what that experience was like?
I had a really good feeling about the retreat, and it absolutely blew my expectations out of the water. Like, it was so much better than I even could have imagined. Again, like being in a group of women who they're not in competition. Like, they truly were there for their own growth and to truly connect with others and just like have fun. And just, I feel like everyone was cheering everyone else on so much. Like our photo shoots, like, you and Sarah kind of bringing some of us out of our comfort zone. Like, you should try this pose, or like get up on the rocks in the waterfall. It's like, I never would have come up with that on my own. I probably would have felt too shy. And so it was just so amazing to be around people who just like their natural strengths just came out and willing to be so vulnerable, or, maybe identify, hey, this is not my strength, but I know it's yours. So like, will you take my picture, right? For example, or there's just something so magical about in-person energy. And it just felt like we were having like the biggest, most beautiful slumber party all long weekend, like for the whole long weekend. I think the thing that was probably the most powerful for me was I love and respect and admire like all of those women so much. And so to be in a space where I felt like that level of love and respect and admiration was mirrored back to me, like to see how mutual that feeling was. Because I often in my life have felt like I'm the person that cares the most. Like, oh, I care about you more than you care about me. Or like, I feel this a little more deeply than you do. Like, I felt like that level was all matched. Like, people absolutely matched that, what I was feeling on the retreat. So again, another layer of feeling very seen and understood, and just being able to see people in a whole new level of like their humanity too. I mean, that only in-person energy can do. Like, I remember you had like your beautiful gold body chain, and I kind of became your, okay, let me clip it on in the morning and take it up in the evening. Like, even Jessica needs help with her body chain. Like, it was just such a familiar, like, I just think sweet thing. Like, that's just a memory that sticks out to me, that like, we never would have made that memory if we didn't have the in-person energy at the retreat.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you had ever shared with me what you just shared about feeling like your level of love and compassion for people felt matched there. And I resonate with that so much. I feel like in a lot of my life, I have always been the friend or the person who goes out of their way for people, and have often felt like I didn't receive that in return in a lot of relationships that I had in my life. So that's very meaningful for me that you shared that. And I'm so happy that you felt that, because we all deserve to feel like what we're giving is being reciprocated. And I'm just so happy that that was your experience at the retreat.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. And I think that just kind of came together for me as we were talking that I have felt that way, but I did not feel that way on the retreat. Like it absolutely, my level of care and love was matched by every single human there, which is also incredible because I think a lot of us have past experiences of like toxic relationships or trauma or abuse, or where like we can think of, yeah, that was mostly a good group, but there were a few bad apples. And we sometimes have these like limiting or scarcity beliefs of like, there's never going to be a group that where everybody is like really a safe, loving place. But everyone at the retreat was a safe, loving, like soft place to land, which was special.
Yeah, I definitely pride myself in making sure that I only allow people that are like me, of that sort, that want to be a loving and compassionate human to the person sitting on both sides of them, because I think that's so important. And I think the world needs more of that. And I think if we all felt a little bit safer in the relationships that we were having, we would feel happier in our lives. And at the end of the day, that's what I care the most about, is the women who choose to work with me feeling as happy and fulfilled in their lives in all aspects as possible.
Absolutely. That is definitely one of your superpowers.
Thank you so much. So to wrap the conversation up, I know that we've worked together in so many different capacities: emotional eating, binge eating, body image, mindset, business, and I think everything in between. We've had so many beautiful conversations, you and I, that I will cherish for my entire life. You mean so much to me. If there's a woman listening right now who feels called to working with me in any of those capacities, but feels obviously nervous about taking that step or meeting the new version of herself that she's never experienced before, maybe it's the financial investment that she's afraid of, what would you tell her about what her experience with me could be if she decided to say yes to that?
I would say absolutely do it. Absolutely do it. Do it through the fear, do it through the wondering, do it through the doubt. And I would say do it from a place of love and abundance and desire. Do not make the investment from a place of fear and scarcity and lack. And what I mean by that, I've definitely invested from a place of abundance and still been scared shitless about the amount of money that I was investing, money and time. Because I mean, I think the time piece is something we don't talk a lot about with the investment. It's usually the money. I believe time is our only non-renewable resource. Money is a renewable resource. So like to invest your time and your money into something, like it's a big deal. But don't do it from a place of, I need this. Like Jessica is going to fix me and I need her. Like from that needy, graspy place. And I think something that you do so well when you're having those conversations, like sales conversations with clients and potential clients, like you really want to help us get clear on, why do you want to invest in this? Like, is it from that place of love and desire to meet that next level version of yourself? Or is it because you feel like I'm going to be left behind if I don't do this? Or I don't know, Jessica will be mad at me if I don't buy. You're like, no, that's a terrible reason to buy. And I don't want you to invest from that place. Like, I want you to feel so much love and like desire of, this is what I want to do. And this is why I'm doing it. And so I just think truly that speaks so highly to your character. You're not in this for, yep, I just want to make the sale, so I'm going to say whatever I need to say to get your butt in this program. It's like, you want to make sure that it's like a good fit all the way around, like 360 degrees.
Yeah.
And so for the woman who is maybe on the fence or about to do something with Jessica, like just know that that's the kind of energy that she brings to it. And if you invest from that place of love and desire and like butterflies in your stomach, like it is going to be just such a beautiful, wild ride. And there's going to be things that you can't even see or know or expect yet. And it's going to be such a like aha moment. And also like an, of course that happened when it happens. I just could not recommend more. If you feel drawn to Jessica for whatever reason, like there's a reason for that. Just the way that I felt drawn to you, and I had no idea where it was going to lead or what it was going to look like, but I followed it and I just took that next step. So it was like, okay, food won't fix the problem or whatever it was. And then we just went from there. But it's the absolute most beautiful ride of a lifetime. So if you feel called to it, I could not recommend more highly working with Jessica.
I knew at some point you were going to make me cry.
And that was it.
Your words are so meaningful to me because I know you so well, and the relationship that we have shared over the last 2.5 years now, it means so much to me. I see so much of myself in you and the type of women that we are and the way that we care about the work that we do. And I'm just so honored to know you and so grateful that you're a part of my life. It means so much to me. And I'm so grateful that you shared your experience and yourself with my audience, because I believe when you speak, you just light up a room, and I'm excited for my audience to hopefully connect with you and experience that in your words and your writing and the way that you speak and the way that you show up, because you're just such a beautiful human. And I'm so incredibly grateful for you.
I love you so much. And the feeling is so mutual.
Thank you. Why don't you share with my audience where they can connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. So mainly I create content and do all my coaching magic on Instagram. So I am at Abundance Emily on Instagram. And I also have a podcast of my own. It's called the Abundantly You podcast on all major podcast platforms. And it's been really fun. I've kind of reignited the podcast. I took a pretty long hiatus for most of 2022, but again, the work that we've done together on banishing all or nothing thinking, it's like I get to jump right back into it. And so I'm really excited to be sharing more on the podcast. But those are really the two main places that I am if anyone wants to connect further.
I love that. We will put links for both of those in the show notes of this episode. I know I say it with every guest, you guys, but I really do 10 out of 10 recommend connecting with Emily. She is such a kind human, and she cares so much about every person in her world. So you will not regret connecting with her. Okay. Thank you so much, Emily, for coming on to the podcast. I love you to absolute pieces.
Thank you so much for having me, Jessica. I love you too so much, forever and ever.
All right, you guys, we'll talk to you on the next episode of the Queen of Pep Talks podcast. See ya.